Hi everyone, it's Tracy Woodard of Faith Fam Fabulosity. Thank you so much for tuning into my channel. So today I wanted to share a story with you guys. The reason for me deciding to share this story is because recently I've been hearing a number of reports in the news about people of all walks of life committing suicide, and it hit home because I had been in a situation many years ago in which I contemplated suicide. In fact, when I was 20 years old, I met a guy. He was a friend of a friend, and I wasn't interested in the guy at all, but he did pursue me for many, many months. I, he seemed to be a pretty decent guy, but again, I wasn't interested, and so I kind of ignored most of his or all of his advances. But after speaking to a couple of friends, they told me that I needed to stop being so uptight and to stop being so extreme and to give this person a try. And so I decided to go out on a date with him, but I decided first to go on a group date somewhere where I knew that some other friends would be and I'd feel comfortable, so that's what we did. And so after going on this group date, my friends started reinforcing the fact that this person, was not that bad and I should stop being so hard and really try to give him a chance. And so I did. Big mistake. And I want to stop right here just to tell you that it's so important to trust and follow your gut no matter what. You have those internal feelings for a reason. Those are red flags to protect you. So again, anytime you're not feeling okay or good about a situation, whether it be a job, a move, a career change, if there isn't peace inside of you, you have to follow that peace. Okay? It is critically important. So, I didn't follow that peace. Instead, I chose to listen to my friends. And so I decided to go on a date with this guy, a one-on-one date, a few weeks later. I decided to pick the place because, again, I wanted to be comfortable. I wanted to be in a familiar environment where I knew there were familiar faces. And so I ended up going to a lounge on Houston Street, I believe. It was in Alphabet City, a place that I went to all the time with my friends. So after being in the lounge for, approximately 45 minutes, this person was insistent on buying me a drink. And the reason being was, first of all, we were out. It was a bar, lounge. It was about 2 or 3 days from my birthday, and so he just kept telling me, I need to celebrate. I really needed to loosen up, unwind, and so I finally decided to take him up on this offer for a drink. But in the back of my mind, I always remembered my grandfather telling me never to allow a stranger to buy you a drink because something tricky might happen. They might slip something in your drink. And so I followed him to the bar, actually stood side by side with him, shoulder to shoulder, just to make sure everything was on the up and up. And he ordered a very interesting drink. So ladies, beware. The drink, when it was placed in front of us, actually had a fire on top of it. It was served with an actual flame on top of the glass, on top of the liquid. I don't even know how that's possible, but yeah. So as I'm standing there, he, outs the fire. Actually, at that point, everyone inside of the establishment was surrounding us, oohing and ahhing. It was quite a spectacle. So he puts out the drink with his hands, puts out the fire with his hands, and then I pick up the glass to take a drink. And initially, it tasted so bad. I didn't take a full gulp. I just took a quick sip, but that was all she wrote. That was all I remember. I guess I lost consciousness or blacked out. I blacked out. I don't know for how long. I just remember going in and out of consciousness. I remember seeing a security guard that I kind of knew, and he kept saying, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I just, again, kept slipping in and out of consciousness. And so the next morning, I lost track of time. So again, this was probably, I don't know the time, but I know we had gone out, and it was probably around 10 o'clock at night. And so at that point, it may have been around 11:30. The next thing I remember is being in a cab for a few minutes and then waking up the next morning. And so when I woke up, I was totally confused. I was totally confused. I had no clue where I was. Absolutely no clue where I was. I was just completely out of sorts. It actually felt like an outer body experience because actually around that time I was a nightclub promoter and I was always out wild, but never the promiscuous type. But it was just, I just felt totally out of control and just totally confused. And like I had actually been drugged, even though I had never taken drugs before. I knew that something was totally off in my mind, in my system. And so a few minutes later, the guy walks into the room where I am, and it scared me so bad because I didn't remember getting to the house or being in the house with him. And so I didn't say a word for a number of minutes, and then he just began telling me that we had been robbed, and he had lost a number of things, and now my family was at his door, and I was just so puzzled. So next thing you know, my sister is at his bedroom door, and when she looks at me, she just bursts into tears. And so it made me get extremely emotional because it was such an unusual and frightening experience. So I actually I found my clothes, and I heard at the time I had a Nextel, and so it was doing what was called chirping, and I was trying to locate it. I finally did. I had so many missed calls, probably close to 60 missed calls, and walkie-talkie messages, and I began just gathering my belongings. So I got into the car, and actually what happened, the reason that my family knew where I was because maybe a month prior to that night, I had gone by his house with all of my friends just to take a good look at him to see if, what they thought, and so I told them that if it was a no-go to honk the horn and we were going to go, it was this whole big scheme, which it was hilarious. It was quite hilarious. So from that incident, me going to his house with all my girlfriends, they remembered the house, and they were able to essentially rescue me. So I go home, and it was just really a really horrifying experience because I had absolutely no recollection of what had happened the night before. And so I just felt so disgusting because as wild as I was, like I said, I was never the promiscuous type. And I was very careful and guarded when it came to my body. In fact, my friends used to jokingly call me Mother Teresa because I was always telling them to stay out of guys' houses. Don't ever go to a man's house for a date. That was their territory. That was their terrain. And the minute they walked in, they would lose control. So I just, felt so ashamed. The fact that I not only was in a man's house, I don't even know how I got there. So the whole blame game started, and it was just really a horrible thing. And because these things had happened that just violated my humanity, I became suicidal. And the interesting thing is, I'd heard of suicide before, obviously, but I never understood it. And I was always the happy-go-lucky type and had a Christian foundation early on. So I really couldn't understand how anybody who was aware of a creator, God, or had any somewhat of a good life could be depressed or suicidal. And so the fact that I was suicidal made me angry. So I just went through all of these emotions: anger, rage, suicide, depression. It was like a cycle that was happening. And I didn't eat for a few weeks. I didn't go to work for a while. Just laid in bed and just trying to figure out what happened. And slowly but surely, I started getting what is referred to as flashbulb images or memories. And bit by bit, I began remembering different events that had taken place that night. So what happened was one day when I'm really deep in this deep dark place, it was like a miracle happened. All of a sudden, I heard this thump on the floor. I was home alone. I heard this thump on the floor. I looked down, and it was a Bible that my grandmother had given to me as a child. And, first I got up and I was looking around. I thought it was a joke. I didn't know what was happening. And so I picked it up, and as soon as I opened it, I don't remember what part of the Bible I opened to, but I remember it. Whatever I read in that time, at that moment, it was just speaking to me, in that situation. And for the first time in weeks, I actually felt peace. Like, I had no peace for many, many, many weeks, and just felt completely hopeless. But in that moment, I felt hope. I felt alive again, and I felt like there was a reason to live and to go on, to get through this and to help others. The help others thing actually came a little bit later. It was mainly about me just feeling better, getting back to the place where I was just confident and full of life, and not contemplating suicide. So again, I just began reading the Bible, and that's what I would do, over the next few weeks, because the minute that I stopped reading it, I wouldn't have that peace, and I really needed it. So little by little, I was began getting back to my life, going to work. But then an interesting thing happened. So as I began recollecting what had happened, I actually called a rape crisis hotline, and I ended up I went to a doctor, got examined, I told them what happened, and they called the police. And when they called the police, I was in Manhattan at the time. We drove, the rape counselor and the police officer actually drove us to Brooklyn. I don't even know why that happened, but they drove us to Brooklyn, to I forget the precinct, maybe the 69th, and gave the detectives there the information. They pulled up his record, and he had a rap sheet as long as a block. So at that moment, it sealed the deal for me. I knew how real it was, and everybody in the room was crying. The cops, the rape counselor. I was actually numb at the time, but everyone just got highly emotional because they saw how sick of a person this individual was. And the really awful part was that he had committed so many sexual crimes, but all of them were sealed. So they began an investigation. They went to try to pick him up, and somehow he avoided it. And within the next day or two, he turned himself in with his attorney. And I'm not exactly sure what happened after that, but I began going to court, meeting with the district attorney, going through some court proceedings to try to get a trial going. And so during that time, he actually began stalking me. He got out of jail and began stalking me. And this went on for, actually not for a very long time, because he stalked me for a number of weeks, and it got so bad I went into protective custody. But he was literally trying to kill me after he had sexually assaulted me. He actually was trying to kill me. And so what sealed the deal and caused me to end up going into protective custody was he got a hold of my social security number. He was threatening me by text messages, saying that he was going to kill me, he was going to kill my mother. One night I came home, and as soon as I arrived and got out of the door and opened the door, a group of guys just jumped out with guns and started chasing me, and I had to drive off. They chased me to the precinct. And so pretty much after that, the district attorney put me in protective custody somewhere in Long Island City, and I stayed there for a number of months while we were going through the proceedings. It was just awful. He was stalking me at work. He had people following me everywhere. So actually, I stopped working for a while. I believe I had to start working from home, because everywhere I went, there were people following me, saying things, throwing up like gang signs, using gun symbols, saying they were going to kill me. I mean, everywhere, even at the precinct. People would threaten me on the precinct steps. And so went through this entire process, and somehow he was able to be acquitted. He talked the jury into believing that I was his jilted ex-girlfriend, and he had broken out with me, and this is the reason that I had gone forth with these allegations. And so even after that, he continued to stalk me for a little while. He would call me playing R. Kelly's song, Not Guilty, and all sorts of crazy things. So, another interesting piece was that because we were like speaking prior to all of this happening, he knew some things about me, nothing deep, but some vacations that I had planning. And so he lied and told I guess he in the courtroom, he said that I was lying. He wasn't trying to do anything to me. If he wanted to kill me or harm me, he could have in Miami, because he saw me and we spoke. It was a complete and utter lie. And the only reason he knew that is because I told him prior to all of this happening, months in advance, that I had booked a trip and my friends and I were going to Miami. But I digress. So he gets acquitted, and he actually continued to stalk me, and everything was just horrible about it. But I think the nail in the coffin was when the district attorney told me that I should never again in life use my real name. He told me that unfortunately people as sick as this guy would probably stalk me for the rest of my natural life. And so this is why for many, many, many years, even to this day, I don't use my real name on social media, because this guy just stalked me for years. So I just wanted to tell you guys that if you are contemplating suicide, there is another way, okay? I myself never thought that I couldn't even fathom having those kinds of thoughts or emotions that would lead me to want to end my life. But I'm telling you that you don't have to. You're important. You are here for a reason. And even in the midst of all the hell that might be breaking forth in your life, things that have happened to you, you can overcome it. I'm a living witness. I've told this story many times at conferences and different events, and every time I do, I get so many people, perfect strangers, come up to me crying, telling me their stories, thanking me, and they're just amazed at the fact that I'm just such a happy person, and I still smile, I laugh. I'm quite the comedian, actually. And they ask me, what is it? How is it that I'm able to have overcome after having lived through such horrifying events? And I tell them Jesus, and it's the truth. It is the truth. The Bible says that he'll give you peace which surpasses all understanding. And that is what saved me. That peace is what caused me to make the decision not to make another decision. So I want to just tell you that there is hope. You can live and live again and have a good life in spite of what has happened to you. Again, what you may be going through, there is hope no matter what you're going through. Hold on. Read the Bible. That's what helped me. I can only speak from my experience. I've been seeing a lot of things about people saying, where was God when XYZ happened? I can't tell you. I can't explain that. At that time, I wasn't in a relationship with God. I was as a child, but got away from that. I don't know why it happened. All I can tell you is that when I needed him, when I needed to overcome, he was there. The peace was there, and here I am, smiling, enjoying life, living life out loud, if you will. No longer hiding behind a moniker, even though it does work for me, Ava Stryker. It does work for me. I'm telling you, God works things out for our good. So know that everything is working out for your good if you believe. And what the enemy, what bad people have done to you, what evil has happened to you, it can turn around into something positive and something good to not only help you, but help so many others. So hold on. Know that greater things are ahead and are in store if you just trust and believe and hang on and live. I love you. and I'll see you soon.